There's a lot of people out here right now. Whew. Y'all got me up here nervous. My heart's over here just. Whew. Let me just start off by saying it's an honor to be here in front of you all, board members, staff members, friends, family, parents, grandparents, sister, as your male youth of the year. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get this started. My mom always told me that any man can be a father, but it takes a real man to be a dad. Every young man deserves a dad, but a father is what I got. I was born on December 18th, 1994, in Oakland, California. My father was in the Navy, stationed in Alabama. When I was a year and a half old, my mom packed up and moved us to Alabama. She thought she could provide me with a better life there, with a dad, grandma, and a cousin. Unfortunately, this did not turn out to be the case. My father is an alcoholic and addicted to smoking marijuana. Those mixed with a short fuse do not make an ideal family. My parents fought constantly, and I had a front row seat to all of it. I remember many nights lying in bed, unable to sleep, because I could hear them arguing with each other in the next room. One day, the arguing was extreme, and I wanted it to stop. I was downstairs playing games with my cousin, while my parents were upstairs yelling at each other. I left my game and started up the stairs to try to stop the fight. I was only 3 years old. My grandma didn't like the idea of me intervening and told me to leave them alone and let them settle things like grown-ups. She tried to grab me, but I wasn't having it. I yelled at her, "Don't touch me." She was flabbergasted because I was usually a pretty quiet kid. But I had had enough. I went upstairs and banged on my parents' bedroom door. From the other side, I heard my father say, "Don't come in." But then I heard a scream from my mom that forced me to disobey my father and open the door. With my young, innocent eyes, I saw my father hit my mom as he was on top of her, strangling her. I was frozen, unsure of what was really happening. But whatever it was, I knew it wasn't okay. I ran over and started hitting my father on his legs, crying, "Get off of my mommy." As soon as he saw me, he let go of my mom. He apologized to me and my mom and tried to act like things were okay, but I knew better. Within a month, my mom and I moved back to California with my grandparents. Not long after that, my mom discovered she was pregnant again, this time with a little girl. She called to tell my father about his daughter, but he refused to claim her as his own. Even today, he doesn't accept my sister as a child. A few months later, my grandma got a job in Reno, so he packed up and moved again. For the first few years we were in Reno, my father would come and visit once or twice a year. He would take the Greyhound bus and stay at our house or a motel. I used to look forward to his visits. I was excited to see my father and spend time with him. When he arrived at my house, we would make big plans to spend time together and have fun. But for one reason or another, those plans would never happen. Instead, I'd be left alone, disappointed and hurt. While my father spent most of his time trying to convince my mom to take him back, that would lead to yelling and arguing, and those fights became such a common occurrence that eventually I just learned to ignore it. During these trips, he always seemed a lot more interested in seeing my mom than he did spending time with me or my sister. He never asked about school or my friends, but he did always ask me if I was going to start playing football. But football was his thing, not mine. I like basketball. So when I would say no, he acted disappointed in me. I can't remember a time he ever told me he loved me or was proud of me. Mostly it was just a short conversation with me, then more arguing with my mom. Then he would be gone again. After a while, my grandpa put a stop to his visits because they weren't doing any of us any good. Even as a kid, I understood why my father wasn't going to visit us anymore. And in a way, I was glad. But still, it was hard not having a father in my life. Most of my friends had two parents at home, and I wondered what it was like to have two parents who got along, two people who truly loved you. I even wanted the discipline of a father, someone to push me to be better. My mom did the best she could, and my grandpa was always there for me, but I still felt like something in my life was missing. All through elementary school, my grandma was my after-school babysitter. She kept me pretty sheltered. Every day I would come home right after school, and for the most part, I wasn't allowed to go to anyone else's house. I know my grandma was trying to keep me safe and out of trouble, but it made it hard for me to make friends. I was already a shy and quiet kid, and I didn't really have a chance to break out of my shell. The summer before my 6th grade year, my mom was at a wedding, and one of her coworkers asked about me. She knew I played basketball, and she suggested that my mom signed me up for Reno Ballers at the Boys and Girls Club. The very next week, I was a club member and heading to my first Ballers practice. It was a Saturday morning ball handling, and I was very nervous. There were so many people there, and the place was so big. I was hoping to just get lost in the crowd until the coach asked those who were new in the group to stand up and introduce themselves. I was terrified and wanted to say nothing at all, but somehow I pushed through the fear and managed to get out my name. From there, I met some great people and started to get more comfortable interacting with kids and adults. I was a baller all through middle school and even played for my school team. Basketball became my driving force. I loved to play. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was really a part of something. I was doing well in school too, until my 8th grade year. That year I signed up for some hard classes and my grades started to slip. I got discouraged and figured I was going to fail either way, so why put in the effort? It didn't take long for my school team coach to notice, and on my 14th birthday, he told me I was off the team because of grades. I was devastated. Basketball was my life. Even worse, my mom grounded me from everything until my grades changed, even Ballers. She told me I would have to tell my Ballers teammates and coaches in person why I wouldn't be playing for a while. I thought she was joking at first, until we were in the car on our way to the club one afternoon. I was so ashamed and embarrassed. I figured everyone would be mad at me. I had worked so hard to become part of a team, and I was about to let them all down. I knew what disappointment felt like, and it killed me to think I would disappoint the people who were important to me. But amazingly, they weren't mad at me. My club family was understanding and encouraging. They reminded me that school should come first and told me to take care of business so I could join the team again. Their support pushed me to put in the hard work to get my grades up, and I got to rejoin my Ballers team for the last part of the season. I had always known that my mom and grandparents loved me, but I was starting to realize that there were others who cared about my life as well. That summer, I was getting ready to start high school at Hug High. I knew I wanted to play basketball, so I showed up to an open gym where I met Charles Walker. Charles was a basketball coach and was very encouraging as he watched me play. There was an instant connection with him. A few weeks later, school started. I knew there was a Boys and Girls Club on campus, so I decided to check it out. It was like my first day at Ballers all over again. The place was big, with lots of activity and people that I didn't know. I didn't stay long on that first day, but before I left, someone handed me a membership application. That someone was Charles Walker, the site coordinator at the club at Hug. Because of him, I came back to the club the next day to give it another try. It wasn't long after that the club started to feel like home. Over time, Charles became that father figure that I wanted so much as a kid. Not only did he help me with basketball, but he cared about me and took an interest in my life. He helped me open up to other people and make friends. And he made sure I went to study hall to keep my grades up. He has always been there to make sure I stay on the straight and narrow. And even if I don't agree with him at first, it always turns out to be better for me in the long run when I listen to his advice. I'm very active at my Boys and Girls Club. I'm the president of our Keystone Club and participated in programs like Smart Moves, which showed me how to stay healthy, and Surge, which taught me about college and scholarships. After I graduate this spring, I want to attend college and in the next 7 to 10 years, become a sports agent or a lawyer. I will become the first in my immediate family to graduate from college. My father still calls us sometimes. He still asks if I'm going to play football. The answer is still no. I wish my father would have cared more about his family, that he would have been there for me and been the dad that I needed. But because of my mom and grandparents, Charles Walker and the Boys and Girls Club, I don't feel like I'm missing anything in my life anymore. Terry Bradshaw once said, when you've got something to prove, there's nothing greater than a challenge. Thanks to my family and the Boys and Girls Club, I've made it through a lot of challenges, and I've always come out stronger on the other side. Thank you.
Ooh. Courage, perseverance, proven track record, determination, driven, will not give up. You know he's going somewhere. You know he's going somewhere. So from the United States Senator Harry Reid, a certificate of commendation to Mr. Felix Cox, the 2012 Male Youth of the Year, Boys and Girls Club of Truckee Meadows, 36th Annual Awards Banquet, and also for being the Youth of the Year 2012 from the Boys and Girls Club, Felix Cox. You are a credit to young people all over, not in this community, but the world, to see what can happen. And we want to thank his parents, too, for all that you did. You should be so proud. You should be so proud. Grandparents, so proud. So proud. And I just want to say that the future is ahead of schedule. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.